It's that time of year once again, ladies and gentlemen, as the NFL season is right around the corner. And as always on this channel, I will be giving my 2025 NFL season predictions. I'm going to be going by conference this year, and I'll be starting off in the AFC. So, usual, I will be going actually this time from first to worst. Usually I go from worst to first, but I'm going to do the opposite now because I just think it makes more sense that way. So yeah, I'm going to go by every single division in the AFC. I'll give my playoff and seeding predictions, but not Super Bowl predictions. That will be for later in the season, but this is my 2025-26 AFC predictions, and let's get on to it. Starting things off in the AFC East, and I have the Buffalo Bills taking the AFC East once again. Last year, the Bills had a magnificent season once again, the number 2 seed in the AFC. They were a top 10 offense last year with no true number 1 wide receiver, and all Josh Allen did was show is how valuable he is to the Buffalo Bills. Keep that word in mind, Raven fans. Valuable. Almost like he won, MVP or something. But anyway, Buffalo is just a well-oiled machine. They're always going to be competitive with Josh Allen at quarterback. And then you take a look at Buffalo's starting O-line. Most of it returns, and it allowed the fewest sacks last year. And you take a look at some of the weapons they added with that as well. Josh Palmer they got for 3 years now as well. Basically, most of the primary guys are back. And like I mentioned with Palmer for Matt Collins and Amari Cooper, it looks like Buffalo will be having that high-octane offense once again. Defensively, the Bills were good defensively, but I think they need to be a little bit stingier, and I think that's where it comes with adding Joey Bosa. They got him on a 1-year deal. If he can stay healthy, that is really huge. You got Dane Jackson at corner, and of course you got Greg Rousseau, who got signed for 4 years, $80 million, 54 of that guaranteed. I think that is absolutely huge for their defense right there. So basically him and AJ Epizina, if I'm saying that name right, need to step it up real big for the Bills right there. They did lose Von Miller, but let's face it, Von Miller is well past his prime. He's at journeyman status right now. And I think Joey Bosa, if he can stay healthy, that is going to be a really good prove-it year for him, barring in mind that he is productive and maybe Buffalo can extend him. But yeah, overall, I look at this Bills team. As I said, most of the primary guys are back, and they are really high on their draft picks that they made mostly with their defense early on. And I see no reason to believe that Buffalo will not be competitive this year. I got them taking the East for, what, the 6th season in a row, I think it is now. So yeah, they run the East now, like New England did when they were the dynasty. 12-5 is my prediction for the Buffalo Bills. Second place, I am taking the Miami Dolphins to finish second. The Dolphins, to me, are a conundrum. On one hand, I know they're talented enough to be competitive, but on the other hand, I don't trust them to make a really deep push, because if these past couple of seasons have shown anything, it's that while I personally think Tua is not as great as people say he is, he's a good quarterback, but he's not elite. But you take Tua out of the picture, and Miami's offense is just deplorable. And that showed last year when Tua got concussed again. He's only had, I think, one full healthy season as the Dolphins starting quarterback, and that's really alarming when you are taken in the early round of the draft, let alone that high of a pick. So, yeah, I just think every year from now on is basically a prove-it year for Tua if he can stay healthy. Other sides of the ball for Miami, Tyreek Hill, can he return to form? He had a low-key pedestrian year last year, but we know that he's still one of the most prolific receivers in the game. Obviously, also, you got Nick Westbrook. He's adding in for OBJ. I think that is a really big upgrade right there. And they also moved on from Jonnu Smith for Darren Waller, who's going to play tight end. But he did not play last year, so I think that may be a bit of a downgrade right there, in my opinion. Because Jonnu Smith, he had okay numbers last year. Nothing to, write home about. But Darren Waller not playing, he's the guy who's going to play for Jonnu Smith. I really don't know. You got Akane, who's really productive, but you also got holes in the O-line as well. Patrick Paul is gone, and I think Teron Armstead and James Daniels are also gone, and they're going to be replaced by Austin Wynn. So Miami still has a lot of offensive line holes right there. Defense was real banged up last year. They lost Jalen Ramsey, but they added Minkah Fitzpatrick and Ashton Davis, who both do real well against the pass. So I think that's going to bolster up Miami's pass defense right there. Hoyer and Javon Holland are also gone, and they don't really generate a lot of pressure, but they have the talent for it. I think losing Calais Campbell might hurt a little bit, but he's being replaced by Ken Grant and Brad Chubb, who is off a torn ACL, so that is going to be a big litmus test right there for the Dolphins. Then you got Jalen Phillips, who they're real high on, and Chop Robinson. So you got some veteran linebackers that are returning to the Miami Dolphins, and they also signed Zach Wilson. I don't know if that's a flex or anything, but they did sign Zach Wilson for backup right there. And, of course, you got Ashton Davis at safety. As I said, I think that is going to be big for it right there. Those are all additions right there. Davis, Nick Westbrook at receiver, Alexander Madison at running back, James Daniels they got for 3 years, Willie Gay Jr. at linebacker on a 1-year deal, and they got Terrell Dodson for 2 years. So yeah, I mean, Miami, they have the tools to be competitive, but I don't know if they are actually going to do it. So I have to put them in second place for that reason. 9-8 is my prediction for the Dolphins. Third place, I'm going to put the Patriots in third place. So this season is all about Drake May. He is in his sophomore season, and I think if he avoids the sophomore slump, New England could probably be a little bit better than what people say, but if he has that sophomore slump, then look out, because this New England O-line is really sloppy. They took a tackle in the first round, which is really good for the O-line right there, but I don't know if that's going to make a massive improvement right there. So they did make additions to the O-line too, and the replacements that they got are upgrades in my opinions, but overall this offense needs a lot of big strides. Ramondre Stevenson, I think he is the best player on that offense right there. And they added Stephon Diggs, which I don't know if that is an upgrade, because we know that he's really good, but he was hurt all of last year. Well, maybe not all of last year, but most of last year he was hurt at the very least. But so, I really don't know if that's a massive upgrade for their receiving core right there. Then, of course, you got Jalen Polk, who's the second rounder right there. Demario Douglas, he may be the best target for New England, so he's going to have to really step things up. And they added Mac Hollins. They got a nice veteran tight end duo in Cooper and Hunter Henry. So, I mean, New England, they kind of like a work in progress with their offense, but it's just unproven. The defense had a down year last year, and that was one of the high points for the team, but it was lacking a lot of pressure. So that's something that the Patriots need to work on right there. They put in Robert Spillane, and they added Harold Landry as well. You got that Christian Gonzalez guy who's a lockdown corner right there, and Carlton David is nice. So, like I say, you get Harold Landry for 3 years. You get Morgan Moses on the O-line right there. You get Carlton Davis for 3 years. You get Milton Williams. You get Marcus Epps at safety. So, New England really no significant losses, but no significant gains as well. Like I said, this all really depends on if Drake May takes that next step forward and improves. And if he does, I think New England can make a little bit of a push, but they're just not there yet. 7-10 is my prediction for the Patriots. And in last place are the New York Jets. This may very well be the worst team in the NFL. Because, like, what else do I need to say? All the drama they had, all the hype they had going into last year. People killed me when I said they were going to be a bad team last year, and look what happened. Finished in last place. They still can't beat New England. The guys they signed, Jamie and Sherwood for 3 years, Jamin Davis. Those are the guys that they were signed, which are fine, but it's really just going to take more than that. They got Brandon Stevens for 3 years. They got Andre Sisco for 1 year, Josh Myers for a year, and now Justin Fields is most likely going to be their quarterback, which Justin Fields, he shows glimpses of talent, but he's not a franchise guy. Steelers and Bears fans can vouch for me when I say that. They released C.J. Mosley. They released C.J. Mosley. Aaron Glenn's now the head coach, which may be fine, but I don't know how he's going to transition from going from coordinator to head coach. The offense with Aaron Rodgers last year wasn't terrible, but it was just nothing to write home about either, because Aaron Rodgers, twilight of his career, well past his prime, over the hill, and for his number, and for his resume, it was just a pedestrian year. That's all I got to say with that. Garrett Wilson's a nice receiver, so's Breece Hall's nice as well, and Josh Reynolds filling in for Devontae Adams. I don't know how that's going to fare out, and Ty Conklin is gone. So the Jets, it's going to be a real bad year for them. Like I said, this is probably going to be the worst team. They're going to be competing for the number 1 overall pick because they need a freaking quarterback, as they always do. 3-14, my prediction for the New York Jets. I don't care if you think I'm being too harsh on them. That's my prediction for them. Moving on to my division now, the AFC North. And as much as I hate saying this, I got the Baltimore Ravens winning the AFC North again. I mean, up and down overall, this is just a complete team. This is just as complete of a team as you can get right here. Last year, they were first in yards per game. They were third in points per game. But I will say this, and I say this for as great as Baltimore's offense is, I am not here to deny that their offense is great, because their offense is great. But I say this every year with the Ravens. People say that I'm wrong about it all the time, but all time is done since that 2019 season when I sat down here and I told everyone the Ravens are going to go one and done in the playoffs, and what happened? They got beat up at home by the 6th seed Titans when they were the 1st seed, okay? All time has done is prove me right about Baltimore's offense. They are a completely one-dimensional and predictable offense. If you eliminate the run game from Lamar and you make him throw the ball, you're going to beat the Ravens. Your chances of beating them are going to skyrocket, okay? Lamar, you get Derrick Henry, who's the best running back, who's one of the best running backs in the game, second best in my opinion behind Saquon Barkley, okay? You have a guy like him to take a lot of pressure off Lamar so he can be himself and use his legs, which is his best attribute, and drain the clock and eat up chunks of yards and extend drives. You get him in a deficit and you make him throw 30-plus times, odds are you're going to beat him. How many times is that shown with Lamar in the playoffs? That's why he folds in the playoffs. How many times do I have to sit down here and say it? I'm not saying that because I'm a salty Steeler fan and I just like hearing myself talk and because I hate the Ravens. I'm saying it because that's what I see. Okay? Anyway. Last year, second last in pass attempts. So there you go right there. You get guys like Bateman and Flowers. They're producing nicely when they're being picked on. You get D-Hop, who is added. I think he's going to be a number 3 receiver, and that's an upgrade over Nelson Aguilar. Mark Andrews, the guy that Ravens fans sent death threats to after the playoff game, conveniently forget that he had a career-high year last year. Isaiah Likely's a nice compliment to him as well. The guys they lost were Pat McCarry, but, 4/5 of their O-line is basically coming back, and that is going to be really tough to penetrate with the Ravens right there. They did re-sign Ronnie Stanley, Tylan Wallace, I think he's come back as well. And they also added to the secondary. I think the biggest reason that Baltimore's defense stepped it up final stretch of last year, I think moving Kyle Hamilton to free safety really helped out the defense right there. This is a team that's going to generate a lot of pressure up front. They got 54 sacks last year. They don't allow a ton of yards, and they have easily the best run defense in the league. Roquan, definitely the catalyst of that defense right there. Then you got guys like Jerome Simpson, and they let Harrison walk as well. But still, this Ravens run defense is very formidable. You got Matabuke, you got Kyle Van Noy, Owa, and they drafted Mike Green in the second round for a great pass rush right there. Secondary, it's Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, Ardarius Washington, Malike Starks. They are very high on, and they're very versatile for like nickel defense right there. They did lose Brandon Stevens, and Jair Alexander, when he's healthy, he is a really good lockdown guy, but if that's like I said, it's a double-edged sword. He's very good, but he is also very injury prone, so it's high risk, high reward right there. So basically, Baltimore comes in with the same defense, basically the same team, and I think they take the division again. 13-4, my prediction for the Ravens. Second place, Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the thing with the Bengals, we all know their offense is dynamic, but the defense is almost the exact opposite. Joe Burrow had possibly the greatest MVP season that was not last year. And let me get this straight, okay? They were second in pass attempts, which is very misleading because of the defense they have. When your defense is bottom tier in nearly every single category, of course you're going to need your quarterback to throw a lot of times. So that's why Cincinnati was second in pass attempts last year. Not because, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase is as dangerous of a combo as it comes. It's because they had to get to that because of the defense, okay? They don't really have any pressure as well, okay? Chase Brown, really good RB1. He's probably due to have a great year. O-line, really big issue for Cincinnati still. Gave up 48 sacks last year. That ain't good. You get Sam Hubbard retiring. They lose Jermaine Pratt and Davis Gather as well. Demetrius Knight Jr. was a nice draft pick for him, and their first two picks were used on the defensive front right there, so the Bengals really need something to get going on the defense right there. Hubbard did retire. As I said, he was in the final year of his contract, so that's going to be a big hole to fill right there. BJ Hill and Chris Jenkins are there, and of course you got the whole Trey Hendrickson thing. He asked for a trade. He has shown up at training camp from what I've heard, but still, they haven't, as of this recording, they haven't worked out an official deal. Joseph Asai, he's nice, but he's not like a complete compliment. So there's the thing with the Bengals. Re-signing Mike Gesicki, Cody Ford coming in for 2 years, BJ Hill for 3 years, Higgins they extended for 4 years, $115 million for the first 2 years that were guaranteed. Of course, you get Jamar Chase getting the big extension for 4 years. 112 of that is guaranteed, and he's coming off a Triple Crown season. So overall, it's basically the same offense for Cincinnati, but the defense had an upgrade as well, but they also had a downgrade, so I really don't know if it really helped out for the defense. All in all, if the Bengals avoid the dreaded 0-2 and even 0-3 start, their chances of making a deep playoff push are really high, but they got to break that trend first. But overall, I think this Bengals team is dangerous, and I got them going 10-7, second place in the North. Third place, my team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And let's just get this out of the way. I do not like Aaron Rodgers. I do not like that signing at all. 42-year-old quarterback, well past his prime. It's not going to go well. If the Steelers win this year, it's going to be because of the defense carrying his corpse, and it's going to be the team bailing out Mike Tomlin out of dumb decisions once again. That's the only reason this team wins. Okay? Anyway, they traded for DK Metcalf for a second rounder, and they got him for 5 years now, $150 million. DK Metcalf, Big splash playmaker. Touchdown magnet. But he's a diva, too. They signed old-ass Darius Slay. He's replacing Dante Jackson. Darius Slay, a couple years ago, I would have liked it. Not so much now. He's going to be in the secondary. Kenneth Gainwell. The second I heard that we got Kenneth Gainwell, I knew we were moving on from Najee, and I knew we weren't going to give him a 5th year. I agree with that because Najee, when you take that guy first round in the draft, he's expected to be a core contributor. I know he had the 1,000-yard rush seasons, but it was very misleading considering that most of it came in the final stretches of the year, and he was mostly dancing around behind a porous offensive line. He just was not getting the job done. You don't get that guy to be a short downhill runner like that. You expect him to be a core contributor. He just wasn't doing it. Mason Rudolph is coming back. Jonnu Smith is coming back. He's going to be paired up with Muth this season. Overall, this offense was just very mid last year. It had some games where it was, exploding and it was being productive, and then other times they just kept stalling at the goal line and they couldn't get a fluid drive inside the 20-yard line. So that's something that the Steelers really need to patch up with, whether it's Arthur Smith, an offensive coordinator, whether it's the quarterback play, whether it's the running backs, whatever it is. This offense cannot keep blowing possessions inside the opponent's red zone, and they especially need to find a way to find the end zone. Trading George Pickens to Dallas, I'm on board with that because Pickens, he was acting out. Great talent for sure, but he was acting out. Basically Antonio Brown Jr. Good luck with him, Dallas. CA3, he had career highs last year, but, it's to be determined if that was just a blip on the radar or if CA3 is just not what he was propped up to be when the Steelers took him. O-line, still a big issue. 49 sacks last year. That is not good, especially with someone like Russell Wilson when he's your quarterback. Dan Moore Jr., thank God that guy is gone. He got demolished in particular. Broderick Jones is probably going to be replacing him, and that's an upgrade in my opinion. But yeah, Dan Moore Jr., that guy gave up, 16 sacks last year on his own? It was just horrendous to watch, to say the least. You got Isaac Seumalo, Zach Frazier coming off a fantastic rookie season at center last year, Mason McCormick, and hopefully a healthy Troy Fautanu can have his first full season in the league. So you got a couple of guys on this O-line that have promise to them, but overall, if you have 2 or even 3/5 of an O-line, a mediocre O-line like that, you're not going to go very far offensively. The Steelers really need an answer on that O-line. Like I said with the whole Najee thing, he's on it. He's in LA now. Jalen Warren and Caleb Johnson, they're going to get the majority of the reps. I lean more towards Caleb Johnson getting the majority of the reps because Warren has that explosion factor, but I just don't think he's an RB1. So probably Caleb Johnson will get most of the reps. The defense is solid with the Steelers, but it is not elite. I will keep saying that. It is not an elite defense. As anyone could have predicted, TJ Watt got extended predictably as he should have. I mean, sure, I've said in the past that the Steelers could get a decent return in a trade for him, but also you don't really give up on a guy like TJ Watt that easily, so yeah, I think anyone with a brain cell could have predicted he'd get extended. Pass rush was okay, but it got wrecked down, the pass defense, rather. The pass defense was okay, but it got wrecked down the final weeks of the year. Got off to a nice hot start, but once it started playing teams that could throw the ball well, it got exposed big time. Pass rush is still strong. TJ and Highsmith, that's a nice 1-2 punch right there. Nick Herbig, great depth piece. You got the rush defense that needs to step up as well. And there you go right there. Cam Hayward needs to retire, in my opinion. But they did draft Derek Harmon for his replacement in the first round right there. Larry Ogunjobi is gone, but you got Keanu Benton, who's gaining more confidence as the years go on. Peyton Wilson, Steelers are pretty high on him, as I am as well. And then, of course, you got the big one. Minkah Fitzpatrick is gone, and this secondary is absolute garbage, in my opinion. You got Juwan Thornhill, who's going to replace Minkah. Yeah, good luck with that. Deshaun Elliott is okay, but nothing amazing. You got Jalen Ramsey, who's past his prime. You got, he's going to be replacing Cam Sutton, and JPJ just keeps getting manhandled in coverage. You got Beanie Bishop, who's not good in coverage either, and you picked up Brandon Echols. So basically, you're coming into this year with 5 corners and no true upgrades on the offense, aside from DK Metcalf. But overall, I look at the Steeler team, and I really don't see much of a difference between this year and last year. So, like, are we doing a lot of nickel in the defense this year? Are we going to be going with 5 corners? Is someone going to be platooning at safety? I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, all this adds up to the Steelers being horrendous this season. But just because it's the Steelers and because it's illegal for them to finish under 500, 9-8 is my prediction for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Last place, the Cleveland Browns. I think anyone can predict this one. The Browns are right there with the Jets for being the worst team in the NFL. Last year, they were last in scoring. And they had one of the worst pass offenses in the league, and they were bottom in yards per game. They also have one of the worst, if not the worst, O-lines in the league. Taking 2 quarterbacks in the draft to go along with Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Deshaun Diddy Combs. You know, that's just what it is with the Cleveland Browns right there. You got 4 quarterbacks and no solution right there, per usual for them. The only guy on the Browns that I really fear on their offense is Jerry Jeudy, but he cannot carry the whole load for the team. Okay, Elijah Moore is gone. Nick Chubb retired due to injury, which as a Steeler fan, it sucks to see because I actually like Nick Chubb. But Nick Chubb retired, so Jerome Ford is going to have a lot of big shoes to fill. And then you get Judkins in the draft, and he already got arrested in the offseason. And then you got Shedeur Sanders, who just proved that he's a reckless driver. Complete dysfunction in Cleveland, as usual. You know, that's just what it is with the Browns. Anyway, their defense was their strong point going into last year, but it gave up a lot of points, and it was middle of the pack in yards allowed. Rush defense was below average at best, but they are good at generating pressure. Losing Dalvin Thompson, that's going to be something that the Browns need to fill in, and they add Malik Collins to that. Taking Mason Graham 5th overall, I think that's going to be big right there. Denzel Ward is still decent, but this pass defense is really suspect in the secondary as well. The big headline also, Myles Garrett, $123.5 million, and he, at the time, made him the highest non-paid quarterback in the history of the league until TJ Watt got his extension. So, yeah, the Browns, they're just terrible. They have a few good players, but if you want a for sure last place team this year, it's the Cleveland Browns. That's all I gotta say. I really have no confidence with them. 3-14 is my prediction with them. If they were that bad last year, when they were coming off a year where they made the playoffs, then I have no doubt that they can be just as bad this year. Yeah, no doubt about that. Going on to the AFC South and winning that division, I got the Houston Texans once again taking it for the 3rd year in a row. Houston comes in with a new offensive coordinator, and honestly, CJ Stroud had a really big fall-off year last year. He had an amazing Rookie of the Year last year, or in 2023, but last year kind of suffered from the sophomore slump a bit, so this is a big year for CJ Stroud. Does he show that last year was just a sophomore slump, or is it going to show that 2023 was the fluke? We'll see. Regardless, though, Houston's O-line needs a lot of patch-up work. 54 sacks allowed last year. That ain't good. You get Cam Robinson coming in for Laramie Tunsil. That's a downgrade right there, but upgrading on the left and right sides, I think that's huge right there. So this O-line really needs to step it up for the Texans, and they took a tackle as well. You get Collins and Tank Dell. Hopefully he can stay healthy because he missed a lot of last year as well. You get Watson coming in from Kansas City. He will be replacing Diggs. They drafted 2 receivers as well, so getting some more help right there for Stroud. Joe Mixon was a 1,000-yard rusher last year, and the Texans are really hopeful he can duplicate that last year. Defensive side was respectable as they were the hardest team to complete a pass on, and they got 49 sacks last year. Will Anderson, total stud. Daniil Hunter, total stud. Kamari Lassiter, if I'm saying that name right, they are really high on. But with that said, the run defense could be better. This really isn't a team that's going to limit you on the ground, but it's not terrible either. I'm just saying it could be better. Christian Kirk coming in from Jacksonville, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson from the Eagles for a 2026 fifth-round pick. Casey Toole for a year, and extending Derek Stingley Jr. for 3 years. So, overall, Houston, I would say that they made an improvement from last year. You know, getting Ed Ingram from the Vikings and Trent Brown as well. So, like, yeah, you know, the Texans, like, they definitely have talent to be competitive, but are they a force to be reckoned with? I wouldn't say that. They still have, like, that underdog team to me. So, I think last year's going to be similar for Houston, but I still think that they take the AFC South with a 10-7 record. That's my prediction for the Texans. Second place, I really had a hard time deciding who's going to the rest of the order because I just don't know about this division. It's the weakest division in the league, in my opinion. But in my opinion, I am taking the Jaguars to finish second. Taking Travis Hunter. That's big for the Texans. That's big for the Jags. He's basically the Shohei Ohtani of the NFL. He's a wide receiver corner hybrid. So there you go right there. They get a new head coach in Liam Cohen, so yeah, a bit of a new regime for Jacksonville right there. Offense last year was straight up abysmal. Just couldn't get anything going offensively last year, and that's really bad when you tanked years ahead for a guy like Trevor Lawrence, who still remains mediocre. Brian Thomas, he's in his second year, and they are expecting a big year from him. They get Gabe Davis out, and they're getting Damani Brown. A lot of these names I'm probably butchering, but you know who I'm talking about. Jacksonville's defense does have talent, but it seems like they're unsure of how to use them. They were bottom tier in most categories, and I blame most of that on coaching. They were okay with pass rush. They got 34 sacks last year, and they were okay with the rush defense, but they need to be more blitz happy for that to be more productive, in my opinion. You get Trayvon Walker coming off a great year last year, back-to-back 10-sack seasons, and you got Hines Allen with 8 sacks as well, but these linebackers, they really just don't get a ton of sacks. They're not going to overwhelm you very much. Jordan Lewis in the secondary, that's big. But letting Evan Ingram walk, Ronald Darby's gone, Josh Reynolds is gone. They did save a little bit of money for that, but still, he's gone. Overall, the additions are basically additions with subtractions on the offense, and it's more of like an X-Factor type of secondary. So I think the reason that I put Jacksonville in second above Indy and Tennessee is because I think Jacksonville's a little bit more defined than both those teams are, but that's really not saying much. 7-10 is my prediction for Jacksonville. Third place, I am going to go with the Indianapolis Colts. The only reason that I put Jacksonville ahead of them is because, for whatever reason, the Colts just cannot beat the Jaguars. They always struggle with them, especially in Jacksonville. And I just think Indy has a little bit more talent than Tennessee does. That's literally the only reasons. Anthony Richardson's has been a disappointment, and even if he does stay healthy, I just don't expect him to do a whole lot. You get Alec Pierce, you got Pittman Jr., you got Downs. That's a nice trio at receiver right there. Donnie Mitchell's in his second year as well, but you get a weak tight end core, so taking Tyler Warren 14th overall, great ball skills for him. But I really don't know about Indy's weaponry. It's very underwhelming to me. Jonathan Taylor, he is the engine of that offense, but, you know, running backs in today's league, they're not as valuable as quarterbacks are. So it's really going to have to come down if Anthony Richardson can really make that strive, and I have my doubts with it, to say the least. Defensive side, Lou Anarumo is taking over as defensive coordinator, which as an AFC North fan, I can tell you Lou Anarumo stinks. His defense sucks. So Indy's pass defense was especially bad last year, but taking some edge, I think that's going to help out as well. Losing EJ Speed for Jalen Carlisle, I don't know about that one. That's a downgrade in my opinion. Upgrading on the secondary, they at least tried right there. Cam Bynum for 4 years. Charvarius Ward for 3 years. Getting Neville Gallimore on defensive tackle and Khalil Herbert on a 1-year deal. And, of course, Daniel Jones, backup quarterback. Oh, man. They're going to have two of the worst quarterbacks in the league, regardless of how it goes. And I think that's why Indy just takes another step back. I don't think they're terrible per se, but they're just really underwhelming. 7-10, my prediction for the Colts. And yes, I have them finishing with the same record as Jacksonville, but I got the Jags in a slight tiebreaker over them. So there you go with the Colts. And I have the Tennessee Titans finishing in last for the second year in a row. I don't think Tennessee's going to be as bad as last year, but they're still just not a good team. It's a work in progress. Cam Ward, first overall pick. So right off the bat, bye-bye Will Levis. Bye-bye Mason Rudolph. I mean, Mason Rudolph's already back with the Steelers. So, yeah, Cam Ward, he's going to be starting most of the games this year. If he, there you go. So, Cam Ward, there you go. Tennessee turned it over more than any other team last year, so they're hopefully to take care of the ball with Cam Ward. They allowed 52 sacks on the offensive line, which, yeah, Cam Ward, he better have some good maneuverability in the pocket. Getting Dan Moore over to Tennessee, that is awful. Like I said, 16 sacks allowed, and Zietler in for Dylan Radens. That's pretty good, but man, Dan Moore Jr. on that O-line, that's terrible. Tyler Lockett and Van Jefferson up on the weaponry for Tennessee. To me, it seems like they're still trying to convince themselves that Tony Pollard is an upgrade over Derrick Henry, which Tony Pollard is a good running back, but he's nowhere near on that same level as Derrick Henry is. So, yeah, good luck with that, Tennessee. Defensive side, they did allow the second fewest yards last year, but don't let that fool you. It's kind of like the equivalent of having strong pitching in baseball, but you have no run support for it as well. Hey, kind of like the baseball team that I'm a fan of. Anyway, on the, Sneed, Javarius Sneed, he only played in 5 games last year, and a lot of others missed a lot of chunks of time as well. So Tennessee really needs to stay healthy. If those guys continue to go down, their defense is just going to get wrecked. Pass rush needs a lot of work as well. This is not a team that is really going to pressure you all day, but it just needs a lot of work. They did go edge in the second round, which is nice, but the rush defense just keeps on getting gassed. The releases they got, Harold Landry is gone, Awuzie is gone. Getting Cody Barton for 3 years, Dermont Jones for 1 year, and that Kenneth Murray trade to Dallas for a 6th rounder. I see an improvement with Tennessee, but I just don't see much of a jump. I think they win a couple more games than last year, but in a strong AFC, it's just not enough for them to win games. I'm going to say 5-12 for the Tennessee Titans. I just think it's a work in progress. I don't know, maybe in a couple more years. And then rounding out the AFC, I got the AFC West, and I'll be honest, I really wanted to surprise everyone and say the Denver Broncos steal the West from the Kansas City Chiefs. I'll be honest with you, I was so close to saying that, but then I figured, you know what, It's kind of like the Patriots dynasty and kind of like what I said about the Bills in 2019. Until the Chiefs don't win that division, I'm going to say Kansas City wins it every time. So, yeah, I know it's boring and bland, but I got Kansas City taking the West once again. Now, I will say this. The offense last year, and quite frankly, in 2023, and even some of 2022, it was very pedestrian for their standards. I mean, it wasn't awful by any means, but it was just pedestrian for them because we know what Kansas City is capable of doing when their offense is completely in sync and they're putting numbers up. It's just either they're bored, either I think they just might be bored, or maybe teams have figured them out, or they're going with a new offensive system. I don't know what it is, but that Super Bowl loss, to me, if that doesn't wake them up, I don't know what does. But Kansas City, yeah, don't kid yourself. They're always going to be great with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Let's not get that mistaken. You look at their weaponry. Can Rashee Rice play the whole year? I don't know. Xavier Worthy, he had a nice rookie season. Expect him to have a good sophomore year. D-Hop is gone. He's out of the picture. Travis Kelce, bounce back year for him potentially. I don't know. He was pedestrian last year as well. Maybe it's age catching up to him. I don't know, but he needs a bounce back year. Noah Gray, he had a career year last year, and they need better play from the O-line, but they kind of downgraded at the O-line last year. Josh Simmons, 32nd overall, he can help, but they are going to need a lot. They're going to need some help on that O-line, bottom line with that. Ground game was mid. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. Kind of just a mediocre run, kind of just like an average run attack. Isaiah Pacheco, he's good for almost 4 a carry, but Isaiah Pacheco, he's not going to be too dependable, but Kareem Hunt, he was able to find the end zone about, 7 times last year, but yeah, it's really not an eye-popping type of run attack, But the defense last year was the strong point for Kansas City. This is a defense that can keep you off the board and they can limit you in yardage. And I don't know, looking at it now, could this actually be part of their offensive strategy? Are they beefing up on defense and playing conservative offense because they know that the defense is going to keep them in the games now? Are they trying for a more defensive approach? I don't know, but the fact of the matter is Kansas City, they're winning. That's all that matters. Shamari Connor, they are really high on, and then you got that Watson guy. He's really good when he's healthy. Justin Reed is gone, and Brian Cook is coming back. Kansas City, they don't get a lot of sacks, even though they're blitz happy, so riddle me on that. Chris Jones, kind of down year for him. I expect him to have a bounce back year. And then Omar Norman Lott, who they drafted in the 2nd round, a defensive tackle. Don't know about that one. And then you got Tershawn Wharton. He's gone. But this rush defense is still pretty strong. Overall, this Chiefs team looks basically the same offensively, but the defense got weakened a bit. But yeah, I just think Kansas City, no matter what they do, they're always going to be great with Mahomes. I think they're winning a little bit with the old school system of a strong defense and trying to win on the ground, but in the end, Mahomes and Reed, they are going to pull off wins, and they're just going to show everyone that they're the dynasty. 13-4 is my prediction for Kansas City, potential number 1 seed again. Second place, I got the Denver Broncos taking a really hard second place, but I love the offseason that the Broncos had. Their offense last year was really impressive, and if it wasn't for Jaden Daniels' rookie season last year, I think Bo Nix would have won it. Bo Nix really turned a lot of heads last year, mine included, and I think Denver's offense is in for a real surprise this year. Cortland Sutton, fantastic year last year. Troy Franklin in his second year was really good. Devon Valley, Marvin Mims. You got a threesome at tight end right there. This Denver offense is really underrated, in my opinion. Javonte Williams is gone, but that RJ Harvey kid they took in the second round, they're high on him. The O-line for Denver is truly where it shines on offense with them. It's among one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league. They allowed the fewest sacks last year, so penetrating that Broncos O-line is going to be really hard. But their defense is arguably the best in the game. I would say it's either them or Philadelphia that has the best defense in the game. Their defense is both limiting and physical. 63 sacks last year, the most in the league. Second in run defense. Pat Surtain wins Defensive Player of the Year. Jaquan Williams is stud. Riley Moss, you get Riley Moss and you drafted Jahdae Barron. PJ Locke and Brandon Jones, that's a nice duo right there. Nick Bonito, 13.5 sacks last year. Zach Allen is just a QB hit machine. Frank Myers with 7 sacks. You got Cooper with 10.5 sacks. Ellis with 5 sacks despite not getting a start last year. They did lose Cody Barton, but getting DJ Jones, Justin Strand, signing Ufunga from the 49ers for 3 years. Trent Sheffield at receiver. Dre Greenlaw, when he's healthy, he's a really good linebacker and the playmaker right there. So, I mean, Denver, they had a lot of upgrades in the offseason, and I really don't see a move they made that hurt them. So, yeah, the Broncos, I am really high on them, and so should a lot of people. Like I said, I was really close to actually saying the Broncos are going to steal the West from Kansas City, but literally the only thing holding me back from saying that is because the Chiefs have won it 9 years in a row, and until someone else does it, I'm going to pick Kansas City to win it every time. But Denver, I think they have a fantastic season this year. 12-5, my prediction for the Denver Broncos. Third place, I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Chargers. Their offense last year, in their first year under Jim Harbaugh, was respectable and it was careful. This is a team that doesn't turn the ball over a lot, but it was a respectable offense. Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnson coming in for a solid season, and Trey Harris in the second round of the draft, adding Ty Conklin as well. O-line does need patch-up work, though, but Justin Herbert turned in a solid season, but the Chargers got it done on the ground most of the time. I'm going to say Mekhi Becton is a nice upgrade, and they got it done really on the ground, like I said, but J.K. Dobbins no longer with the team now. In comes Najee Harris. I don't know if that is a massive upgrade. Seems more like a neutralizer right there. And they drafted Omarion Hampton, who I personally wanted the Steelers to get. Defensive side, LA had a strong defense last year. They actually allowed the fewest points in the league last year, and they had the best red zone defense. Pass defense was really strong as well, but Asante Samuel losing the game, gone, but he did miss more than 75% of the season last year, so I guess that might be an addition by subtraction for LA right there. Bringing in Dante Jackson from the Steelers, and they got a nice strong pass rush with 46 sacks last year. Joey Bosa is gone, but they did save $25 million from that. They re-signed Gus Edwards. They re-signed Khalil Mack to a 1-year deal, and Mike Williams is coming back as well. So, yeah, they do have upgrades on the offense, but the reason that I'm putting Denver above LA is because I'm just on board with the Broncos more. Like, with the Chargers, I think that with the Chargers, I think that if you can eliminate their run game, I really don't know if Justin Herbert is that great, or if he's able to get the pressure taken off of him because of the run game that he has. So we're going to see a lot about what kind of a quarterback that Justin Herbert truly is this year, in my opinion. But yeah, I do expect LA to make a playoff push. 10-7 is my prediction for the Chargers. And then in the basement, I got the Las Vegas Raiders. So Pete Carroll is coming in as head coach. I think that's a good hire for the Raiders right there. And of course, you got the big one. Geno Smith traded for a third-round pick. He's going to be the QB now. I don't know exactly how well that's going to pan out for them. Ashton Gentry, first-round pick that should help out. That should help out with the run offense, but they really need a strong pass attack as well. And I just don't know if Geno Smith is really a prolific passer. He's a good passer, but I don't know if he's prolific with it. But, you know, the Geno Smith-Pete Carroll move, the chemistry they got, it could work out, but only time will tell. Adding in Raheem Mostert, not high on that. He does have injury history, so we'll go from there. Brock Bowers, he had a solid rookie year, so expect him to have a nice sophomore season. You got Jacoby Myers coming off a career high, but he's really not dynamic per se. Jackson Powers Johnson is in for Andre James, but their offense in general is just really bottom tier all year. They took 50 sacks last year. Not good for the O-line. Defense does give up a lot, and they don't really have a high pressure count. Does Kunze play? He missed a good portion of last year. Robert Spillane is gone for Jermaine Pratt. I think that might help out right there, and they got Landon Roberts. But, yeah, you know, overall, you look at the Raiders, I think at worst they show that they're just no different from last year, and at best they win a couple more games. So I basically just see more of the same. Pete Carroll, I don't know if he can truly make the Raiders a strong contender, but yeah, like I said, at worst they just show they're no different. But I think Vegas wins a couple more games. I think they go 5-12 this year. They're just not a strong team. All right, so with all that being said, this is my AFC playoff picture. I am taking the Kansas City Chiefs to get the first seed again, and I got Baltimore taking the second seed. I do have them finishing with the same record, but the reason that I have Kansas City taking the first seed over the Ravens is because I have Kansas City beating Baltimore again. Until the Ravens find a way to beat the Chiefs, just like how everyone said with the Steelers, okay, in the Brady Belichick era. Until the Ravens beat the Chiefs, I'm going to say Kansas City beats them. Every time. That's all there is to it. Everyone said that about the Steelers and the Patriots era. Okay? That's all there is to it. But Kansas City, first seed. Baltimore, second. Third seed goes to the Buffalo Bills. And Houston gets fourth seed by complete default. The fifth seed. Here are my wild cards. Denver Broncos take the first wild card spot this year. I love the offseason the Denver Broncos had. Cincinnati Bengals, I think they return to the playoffs as the 6th seed. And the 7th seed, I am giving that to the Los Angeles Chargers. So those are my playoff teams in the AFC. And I'm going to do something new now. 3 teams in the AFC that I believe missed the playoffs this year. First team is my team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Steelers missed the playoffs this year because the past 2 seasons, yes, they did make the playoffs, but they played just about the worst type of football imaginable. And overall, they at least tried to do something this offseason, but this is just an uninspired roster, uninspired head coach. They're just going to settle for their stupid 9-8 Lombardi trophy. And, yeah, just expect it. You know, that's what happens when you're stubborn to change, and that's what happens when you don't make any real huge, you don't really have an answer at quarterback. You know, Aaron Rodgers is just not something to get really excited about. That's all there is to it. So I think the Steelers missed the playoffs this year. Second team to miss the playoffs are the Miami Dolphins. I am not in love with the Miami Dolphins. I think that, like I said, they're a conundrum to me. I know they got talent to be competitive. I know they can be good, but they just never get on that level. And I've lost all hope with the Dolphins. So I think they'll finish above 500, but I just don't see them in the playoffs this year. And then my third team to miss the playoffs are the New England Patriots. I know a lot of you are probably saying, well, that's an obvious one because the Patriots stink. That's true. But I've seen some people say the Patriots could potentially sneak in a wild card spot this year. And maybe in a few years I can see the Patriots getting there, but I just think it's a work in progress for them, and they're not on that level yet. So, yeah, New England, they are my third team in the AFC to miss the playoffs. And there you have it. If you tuned in this long and stayed through the whole thing, shout out to you. If you turned it off, I don't blame you. But those are my AFC predictions, and stay tuned for my NFC predictions, and I will see you in the next one.